She treated me like built-in childcare from the moment she got pregnant, but I swallowed my anger for years. Then, she left Mason on my porch in freezing rain while she flew to Miami. That morning shattered everything. Now Trish Brennan is behind bars, stripped of custody and designer bags. What began as babysitting turned into a courtroom war, and the end of a family I once fought to protect. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Back when I still believed Trish just needed support, I skipped work to help her with doctor's appointments and crib shopping. I told myself she was just overwhelmed. But then came the color-coded binder, assigning me night feedings like I was her live-in nanny. Liam raised an eyebrow. But I defended her. She's family, I'd say, even as the responsibility crept deeper. I didn't see the control tightening, not yet. Loyalty blurred into obligation, silently consuming me. She once demanded I cancel a date night because Mason had a cough, nothing serious, just her paranoia. If you loved him, you'd stay, she guilted. I stayed. That night Liam ate takeout alone while I rocked a healthy baby and questioned my role. My boundaries blurred under her manipulation. I thought I was being kind. But love isn't guilt, and family doesn't weaponize sacrifice. That was the first crack in the illusion of sisterhood I clung to, when Liam found out Trish booked a vacation during flu season. Leaving Mason with me, he exploded. She's exploiting you, he snapped. I defended her again. But inside I was cracking. My work performance dropped, I missed meetings. Trish texted hourly, micromanaging. She doesn't want help, she wanted a free nanny. My boss warned me one more absence, and I'd be on probation. Trish's emergencies became my liabilities. Was this still family duty or just manipulation disguised as love? Trish screamed at me over the phone when I dared to suggest daycare. You're abandoning him like dad abandoned us, she shouted. Her manipulation stung deeper than usual. I'd spent months juggling Mason work and Liam's fading patience. At a family dinner, she bragged about her wellness retreat, skipping over who watched her child. Aunt Linda shot me a knowing look. I smiled weakly. Trish used trauma like currency. Was I enabling a lie wrapped in legacy? Liam found Trish's Instagram post from her retreat, cocktails, cabanas, and zero mention of Mason. He showed me silent. I stared, numb. She'd told me it was court-ordered therapy. The lie hit like ice water. Rebecca, a KSBS worker I met through work, warned me neglect's a pattern. At a moment, my boss, Janet, quietly offered mental health leave. I declined. The guilt still controlled me, but Rebecca's words lingered. How long could I keep rationalizing the irrational? When Mason spiked a fever and Trish didn't answer for 8 hours, I panicked. The ear doctor asked why the mother wasn't present. I had no answer, just Trish's voicemail saying she had bad reception. Liam didn't say I told you so, he just held me while Mason slept. Hooked to fluids, Rebecca called me a mandated reporter now. My hands trembled. This wasn't just toxic, it was dangerous. Was loving Mason enough if I stayed silent through this? At the emergency custody hearing, I faced Trish across the courtroom. Her lawyer called me emotionally unstable. Waving texts she'd baited from late-night fights, but I had photos Mason in dirty clothes, alone in his stroller outside clubs. Rebecca's report outlined neglect. Liam stood behind me, silent but steady. The judge narrowed his eyes. Is this your signature on the daycare refusal? Trish faltered. I didn't flinch. This wasn't sibling rivalry, it was survival for Mason, and for me. Patricia Delgado, my attorney, revealed Trish's airline records proof she flew out hours after Mason was left at my door. Trish gasped, finally realizing the trap wasn't mine, it was her own pattern. The courtroom shifted. James, our building's doorman, testified how often he saw Mason alone. The silence that followed was damning. For the first time, I saw Trish's mask crack. No charm, no tears, just raw exposure. I didn't feel victorious, I felt responsible. But I didn't flinch. Trish lashed out in court, screaming it was all lies, that I was jealous. The bailiff stepped in. The judge called a recess, but not before slamming the gavel. We will reconvene with child testimony protocols. Mason wasn't just a pawn anymore, he was the reason I stood up. Aunt Linda whispered, you're doing the right thing. My hands still shook, but I'd broken the silence. That courtroom wasn't just a legal battleground, it was where the illusion ended. The final day Trish didn't show. Her lawyer cited emotional distress. The judge awarded me full custody and issued a restraining order. I clutched Mason's little hand outside the courthouse. He looked up, confused but safe. Liam kissed my forehead. Aunt Linda sobbed. It didn't feel like triumph, more like quiet, exhausted relief. Trish once said I'd never survive without her. She was wrong. I didn't just survive, I built something better, and it began with telling the truth. Just when I thought it was over, I received a voicemail. Trish, slurring threats from jail. She wasn't done. I forwarded it to Patricia, who tightened the protection order. But fear seeped in. If she could access a phone behind bars, what else could she do? I checked locks twice, slept with the baby monitor on. My chosen family kept watch, but paranoia replaced peace. This wasn't the aftermath. It was a new front. Was I ever truly safe? James found a strange woman watching our building, eyes darting, phone in hand. When approached, she muttered Trish's name before fleeing. I reported it. That night, a rock shattered our front window. Mason screamed. Liam chased shadows. This wasn't a coincidence. Rebecca expedited a security referral. I pressed charges again. Trish was orchestrating harassment from inside. I thought a judge's order was a shield, but monsters don't always obey paper. Justice got me custody. Survival required vigilance and resilience. A KSBS audit flagged anonymous complaints, claims I was neglecting Mason. It was laughable until they visited. I opened the door with trembling hands. The caseworker saw the clean home. Mason giggling with Aunt Linda. Liam prepping dinner. We've seen this trick before. She whispered after. Trish wasn't just bitter, she was desperate. The system she once evaded, she now tried to weaponize. But this time, I documented everything. The same file that once exposed her now protected me. Mom called, first time in months. Trish says you're turning Mason against us. Her voice dripped with guilt. Tactics. He's not a weapon, I replied. She hung up. The next day, a wellness check was triggered at my apartment. Police apologized but had to verify. Trish and Mom weren't acting alone. Generational manipulation had returned. But I wasn't a scared little sister anymore. I had evidence. I had allies. They wanted me to snap. I stayed standing. Patricia uncovered sealed documents. Trish had prior KSBS cases in another state, buried through family connections. This wasn't her first offense. My stomach churned. I'd excused her for so long, blinded by history. Liam held me as I processed the truth we'd all enabled her. Aunt Lynn admitted she once lied to cover a misunderstanding. That cycle ended with me. I handed over everything to the DA. This wasn't revenge, it was closure. Exposure wasn't betrayal, it was healing. Mom showed up unannounced, pounding on the door. "Let me explain," she yelled, and Mason cried. Liam called the police. I recorded everything. She screamed about loyalty, about how I was tearing the family apart. A family doesn't demand silence for the sake of image. I stayed calm, gave the footage to the DA. A protective order followed. Mom called me a traitor. I called it boundaries. The cycle was shattering, and I wasn't looking back anymore. Trish's attorney filed for appeal, claiming she was mentally unfit during the trial. New psychiatrists lined up, the court delayed enforcement. I panicked. Rebecca reassured me delays aren't reversals. Still, each extension felt like betrayal. I hired a trauma specialist for Mason. Aunt Linda started attending therapy too. We built armor and healing. Patricia filed counterclaims. I wasn't letting paperwork unravel what truth had built. Trish wasn't misunderstood, she was dangerous. And I would not lose Mason to delay tactics. Mason had nightmares again, screaming about locked doors and no food. I held him until his body stopped shaking. The therapist confirmed signs of early trauma. My heart broke. I thought love could erase pain, it couldn't. But we could name it, face it, and rebuild. I painted his room soft blue. Liam added stars to the ceiling. Aunt Linda taught him lullabies. Trish's damage ran deep. But Mason wasn't alone anymore, and neither was I. We were healing. A letter arrived, Trish's handwriting. No return address. I opened it with gloves, documenting every line. She blamed everyone but herself, begging for forgiveness, threatening to sue for visitation. Rebecca confirmed it violated the no-contact clause. We pressed charges again. I scanned every envelope now, but I didn't cry, not this time. Trish's words no longer held power, they revealed desperation. Boundaries weren't cruelty, they were safety. And that letter, it was evidence, nothing more. No guilt, no second chances. Liam proposed again, no flash, no audience, just him, kneeling in our living room with Mason asleep nearby. This time, let's build without baggage, he whispered. I said yes, tears quiet but certain. We set a wedding date with no family invitations, just our circle: Janet, James, Aunt Linda, Rebecca, our chosen tribe. Trish's shadow still loomed, but it no longer dictated our future. Love wasn't about loyalty to pain, it was about peace, trust, and the home we made. Janet promoted me, officially recognizing the work I balanced through chaos. The announcement email called me resilient under fire. Trish once said I'd never succeed without her. Now I thrive despite her. Liam took me out to celebrate. Aunt Linda watched Mason, who called her Mama Lynn now. Our family was no longer broken, it was redefined, not by blood, but by effort and empathy. For the first time in years, I breathed without guilt. I'd earned this air. We enrolled Mason in preschool, his first day away from Mason's custody. He clung to my leg, eyes wide. You'll come back, he whispered. Always, I promised. I watched through the window as he sat, wary but brave. That night, he drew our family, me, Liam, Aunt Linda, even James. No Trish, no Mom. I didn't prompt it, he chose it. Healing wasn't just mine, it was his too. Safety let him rewrite his story, and this time he smiled. Rebecca nominated me for a survivor advocacy panel, sharing my story to help others. At first, I hesitated. Then I stood on that stage, palms sweaty, voice steady. Sometimes family isn't your blood. Sometimes, it's who shows up when it's hardest. The crowd was silent, then clapped. Later, a woman hugged me, whispering, "You gave me courage." I walked off that stage not just a survivor but a guide. Trish's legacy ended with me. Mine was just beginning, at therapy. Mason built a tower of blocks, then knocked it down. Trish breaks stuff, he muttered. I froze. The therapist nodded gently. We'll rebuild, she said, and we did. Each session added words to his wounds: unsafe, scared, loved. Liam started joining, learning how to co-parent healing. Aunt Linda brought snacks. James taught Mason chess. Trauma once chained us, now it connected us in rebuilding. Trish caused the cracks, but together, we were learning how to reinforce them. News broke: Trish violated parole again, caught with forged documents. This time, the judge revoked leniency. 5 years, no bail. I stared at the headline, numb. Relief didn't feel triumphant, just quieter. Liam brought me coffee. You okay, he asked. I think so, I whispered. The storm wasn't over, but the threat dimmed. No more letters. No more shadows. Mason danced in the living room, blissfully unaware. And me, I finally believed safety wasn't borrowed. We built it ourselves. Our wedding was small backyard lights, mismatched chairs, laughter, no big drama, just vows whispered under a starry sky. Mason held the rings. Aunt Linda read a poem. Rebecca toasted with sparkling cider. Janet cried through her speech. James grilled burgers. We didn't need opulence, we needed truth. And it was everywhere. I wore no veil. I wanted nothing hidden. Liam called us the family we fought for. He was right. We weren't perfect, but we were ours, finally, truly ours. After the wedding, I stood on our porch, the same place Trish left Mason. It didn't haunt me anymore. I'd replaced panic with peace. The porch light still flickered, but now it meant family dinners and bedtime stories. I touched the doorframe, once my breaking point. Now it marked our beginning. Trauma still echoed, but healing spoke louder. I wasn't the girl begging for validation. I was the woman who chose safety, and kept choosing it. Every day, I watched Mason sleep, arms sprawled, unafraid, his stuffed bunny clutched tight. That quiet trust, it meant everything. I whispered, "You're safe now." Not just to him, but to the version of me that once felt helpless. The girl who thought sacrifice was love. Liam kissed my shoulder. Aunt Linda dozed on the couch. This was our peace, not flashy, not loud, but fiercely earned, and I'd protect it. Not out of fear, but because we finally mattered. I opened a fresh journal, no pages torn by guilt or erasure. On the first line, I wrote, "Protecting him protected me." It wasn't just about Mason anymore. It was about breaking cycles, choosing truth over comfort. I mailed copies of my testimony to advocacy centers. If even one woman saw herself in my story, it was worth it. I wasn't just surviving. I was rebuilding for both of us. And every word was finally mine to own. Trish was denied parole again. The judge cited her repeated violations and zero remorse. I didn't attend. Patricia sent me the summary. Aunt Linda said, "That chapter's closed." I nodded. Closure didn't need confrontation. Just distance? Mason never asked about Trish anymore, and I didn't offer. Some names fade for a reason. I didn't need revenge, just silence, and we finally had that. Peace wasn't loud. It was finally mine to keep. We planted a tree in the backyard. Mason called it the brave tree. Every year, we'd watch it grow. James added a bench nearby. Aunt Linda painted a sign, "This is safety." It became our sanctuary. No echoes of yelling, just laughter, stories, and second chances. Trish taught me fear. That tree reminded me of courage. Healing took time. Roots took hold. We didn't erase the past, we outgrew it. And it never followed us inside again. Now, every bedtime ends with the same words. Mason says, "We're safe." And I answer, always. Liam tucks him in. Aunt Linda hums softly from the kitchen. Our home isn't perfect, but it's honest. And fiercely loved. Trish no longer owns a page in our story. I rewrote it, line by line. We didn't just survive, we thrived. That's the legacy I'll leave. Not sacrifice, not silence, just truth, chosen family, and freedom. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.